Well, good afternoon, folks, and welcome once again to the United Regional Chamber of Commerce's weekly update. We try and bring you on some interesting guests and some programs to keep you informed of things happening around our community. And today, I'm very pleased to bring to you the two co-founders of the Attleboro Immersion Reentry Program, Diane Reeves and Peter Kortright. I knew Peter Kortright from one of his other lives when he was a chamber guy, just like me. So Diane and Peter, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, as Jack said, I once worked for the Fall River Chamber of Commerce back in the early 2001 to 2008. Prior to that, I worked in New Bedford for Baybank, and done some work with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts way back in the 70s and 80s. So that's my background, and I'm retired now and live in Mansfield. And I volunteer for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul.
You're busier now than when you were working. This retired thing really doesn't, that word doesn't really work.
I think one of the things that all of us fail to realize is that we're living longer now, and retirement doesn't mean the same as it used to when our parents retired.
That's right. Diane, how about you? Tell us a little bit about you.
I am a retired educator, and I've taught from kindergarten up through graduate school, and I worked for 45 years in and around this geographic area. And Peter and I are not only partners, but we're married. And since we became married, we have volunteered in this program in Attleboro through our Vincentian volunteer efforts.
Well, it's a great program. You know, Peter and I have had a couple of conversations, but we want to let the people know in the area that this program does exist here in Attleboro, because many people that have been incarcerated are trying to get back into society, get back into regular life. And it's programs like yours that help them. So talk to us a little bit about the program.
So 6 years ago, our Voice of the Poor Committee, which is the advocacy arm of St. Vincent de Paul, settled on the idea of calling up the sheriff and asking him what we could do to help men and women getting out of jail at the Bristol County House of Correction. How could we help them get back into the community? And Diana can explain how we started with visiting the jail and some of the things we've done there and what we do now.
Well, we've been in existence now 6 years, and for many years we were able to go down to the Bristol County House of Correction and conduct classes called Getting Ahead While Getting Out to the gentlemen who were down there as they approached getting their freedom date. Since COVID, we've not been able to run the classes inside the prison. But since 2017, we have provided opportunities for people getting back into the community, as you say, Jack, to come in here and talk with us about their needs. I would say primarily their first need is shelter. Many of these people have burned their bridges with family. We provide probably the greatest thing that we provide, the greatest monetary amount of our work is in transitional housing. And we also provide assistance with clothing or food or personal care items, or if you need assistance getting an ID. There is really no act of charity that the Society of St. Vincent de Paul will not try to accomplish.
I've read up a little bit on your website and things. Tell us, for folks who have no idea of this world, tell us what happens when somebody gets incarcerated.
Well, when they get incarcerated, they generally go to jail. The ones we focused on are people in Bristol County, but since we started doing this, we're helping people. We focus mostly on people when they are released from prison. They have no money generally, maybe a few pennies from their canteen account, but if things work well, they know when they're going to be released and they have a chance to do some planning for that. But That's even difficult. There are no computers in the jail that, at least up until recently, that inmates can use to communicate with their families or to communicate with landlords who might give them housing. So they're sometimes they get taken to a court date, and the judge says, you can go now, you're free to go. And so they literally standing on the street corner out in front of the district court most often, wanting to know where they're going to sleep that night. And we recognized this early on by talking to the sheriff's department people. And one of the things they can do now is call the reentry program. And we're in the office every Wednesday. We have a team of volunteers who sits down with men and women, and we help them sort of prioritize their needs, make a plan. We help them with, as Diana said, with rent and food cards. Today, we've seen 2 or 3 people in the office by appointment. Some people just walk in off the streets. We really encourage an appointment. We do a lot of work on the phone, and we help them get settled. But the fact of the matter is that our society, and this is not just here in Massachusetts or not just here in Bristol County, for the most part, incarceration means serving a sentence of a certain period of time and then being released. And if time passes between the time you go in and the time you get out, it's going to be at least a year or 2 for many people. Sometimes it's longer than that. The world has changed radically. Change is happening so quickly now that people need to relearn things. They need to reestablish their identities. And we try to help them do that in a variety of different ways.
Well, I know one of the challenges that a lot of folks have is financial, and paying the rent, paying even to get bus fare to go somewhere. Where do you folks get the funds that you help these folks with?
We are completely supported through charitable donations. None of us in this office are paid. We're all volunteers, and we are most locally supported by the 6 parishes that are in the Attleboro district of St. Vincent de Paul. So the people who participate in the Catholic churches there contribute to St. Vincent through charitable endeavors. We sponsor a family walk each year that is a big fundraiser for St. Vincent de Paul locally, and we share in some of the amount of money that is collected through that effort. A large amount of the rest of our funding comes from, we are provided with the Department of Corrections. We have a line item in the state budget. We've been able to obtain grant funding from the district attorney's forfeiture fund, the fund of money that's taken from people who are arrested under drug fines. We have private donors, the Balfour Foundation. We've had bank grants in the past. We've benefited from an Attleboro Rotary grant. And we are also assisted through the St. Vincent de Paul National Office in our immersion efforts. That's where the immersion name comes from. So we get grant funding from them as well.
Well, if somebody in the general public wanted to assist you in your efforts, whether it be financially, offer a room, offer transportation, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, our website, I believe, has a donation function on it. So svdpattleboro.org is for the District Council of Attleboro. And that's a wonderful website for the general public to know about, because they can learn more about the organization and the individual parish-based conferences that make up the ground level volunteer cadre of about 200 volunteers throughout the greater Attleboro area. But they can also make donations. In fact, today we had a woman walk in by prior arrangement. She had done jury duty, and her company had paid for her service on jury duty. And so she didn't really need that. And she decided to turn that payment into some gift cards for groceries and other things that she wanted to make a donation. And you can always stop by our office on Wednesday. You could email us if you want to talk and learn more about the program. Over the years, we've had a number of different kind of out of the blue community community donations, and we can use every bit of help we can get. We can also use volunteers, and we would love to have the opportunity to talk to clubs, groups, in different churches even. This is much bigger than just what can be handled by St. Vincent de Paul or the Catholic Church. So we're anxious to meet new people and talk about our program and bring more people into it. You know, almost every family, like every family has somewhere an alcoholic or a drug abuser. Most every family knows somebody who is involved in behavior that gets them locked up someday. Even if it's a few years ago, we want to help people who have suffered from that trauma get back on their feet, because families are important, and too many fathers and mothers are impaired in their ability to be fathers and mothers by incarceration.
One of your question is very, very timely, because we are at a point in our growth where we're really looking to expand our volunteer base of mentors, as well as people who could work in the office to assist with intakes. We have that many people coming to see us. After we get somebody stabilized and clothing on their body and under a roof, it's not the end of the road. We try to pair them up with a person who would be a mentor for as long as 6 months to a year. And it's something that I provide training for our mentors. And it's something we're trying to grow quite a few more people to function in that capacity.
Now, I know that, you're based here in Attleboro, but you cover all of Bristol County, and probably sometimes a little bit of outreach outside of Bristol County if that individual has family members or, some type of connection outside. But this is a good opportunity, especially coming on with AACS today, to reach out to the public. And if there's anybody out there that is interested in getting involved in the program, would like to make a donation, even a donation of their time, please don't hesitate to reach out to Diane and Peter. They're a great couple. Again, I've known Peter for many years, and this is a great program. Not everybody that's incarcerated is really bad. Sometimes you're put in a bad situation, you've made a poor choice, and that just happens to be the outcome. But there's still good people in there. Don't get me wrong. There's bad people too. But Peter and Diane seem to be able to filter through and to help those individuals. Is that correct, guys?
I want to really also say something about, I think very often the public presumes that most of the people we deal with are men. And I want to stress that we are working, and have been for the last 3 years, with many, many women. And frequently where these women end up, we don't seem to be getting them right out of the prisons, but they often end up in a substance abuse, a sober home. And we are able to provide the things I've already talked about, but in collaboration with a life coaching agency, a nonprofit that is actually housed next door to us at 95 Pine Street, Pave Your Path. We've been able to offer women's empowerment classes that have been very well received. And we try to run one of those classes, one series of them each month. So I just want to make sure people are thinking about female returnees from incarceration as well. And you're right, we do go through a vetting process when they first arrive, and we do our best, but we don't make judgments about the crimes that they've done. We don't often know what they've done. We don't want to know. We want to see what their future path might be and assist them in that way.
That's right, Diana. I mean, we're all God's children, and every single person on the face of this earth is somebody's son or daughter or father or mother or brother or sister. And we're all imperfect. We're all trying to be better. And sometimes the reason people find themselves making bad decisions is because of poverty. They don't have the educational resources. They don't have the financial resources. Their families weren't perfect and didn't bring them up with values that enable them to be successful in this world. And we can't just write that portion of the population off. God tells us as Vincentians that our duty is to try and help fill the gaps that are there and help all people. So we've had murderers, we have sex offenders, we have everybody. To us, they're individuals. They're people who have a future, who have the ability to rehabilitate themselves, and they need a little help is all. And they're all very nice to work with, and they're very appreciative of our help.
Well, one of the other things that I wanted to mention, and especially during this crazy COVID time, there are so many employers out there that are begging for help. They need help. And some of these folks that you are working with, they already have skills or they're willing to be trained. What's the best way for an employer to reach out and talk to you about some possible candidates that you may have?
Well, as we would love to hear from, and Jack and I have talked about this at least once over the past couple of years. We'd love to have a stronger connection to the employer pipeline. Of course, we have the services of Mass Hire, Bristol, and most of the jobs are online. Almost every one of these individuals who we work with have a resume on Indeed. Many of them work with temporary agencies. But if employers, some of whom have formerly incarcerated people working with them already, and some of the employers have been formerly incarcerated, we would love to have employers who are looking for help at the basic level reach out to us and talk to us about their needs and how we can send them candidates. Because you're correct, Jack, you can't pay for rent these days, and a car and groceries and everything else we need to live, even at a subsistence level, on Social Security, disability income, or anything else. You need to have some sort of a job. Most of these people are motivated to do that, but they do need a little help and encouragement. And we literally teach people coming out of jail that they need to explain their situation up front, be honest, overcome the stigma of incarceration, and say, my past behavior does not define who I am as an individual. And as you say, that some of them are formerly plumbers and some of them are union guys and gals. And they want to get back. And we helped a guy last week with a gift card to help buy tools so that he could go out and fix things as a handyman and as a person doing that kind of work, because oftentimes under the table jobs are the only things that they can find to begin with, but we want to get them back into the employment system.
Well, we're coming to a close of the show. Is there any final thoughts that you may have for us?
I guess I would just say that we're very grateful for this opportunity. We've been working, trying to move around to the various social agencies and groups in the Attleboro area, and this is a marvelous way for us to get our message out. I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
And I would also just like to thank our sponsors. We've been supported by Mayor Hero. We're in 95 Pine Street, a city-owned building. We pay rent for this classroom. We're on the second floor, but we've had wonderful relationships with our legislative delegation, our congressional delegation. As Diana said, we work with the sheriff, we work with the district attorney, and lots of community partners. So thank you for all of them. And together we'll continue to make sure that we help fill the gaps and help people in poverty.
Well, thank you both for all you do for those individuals and to fill some of those gaps that the employers and the landlords need. Thank you once again, Diane and Peter. I want to shout out to Dave Angel, our producer at AACS, and thank the crew at AACS for putting up with me every week. We truly appreciate it. Next week, we will have one of the deans from Bristol Community College joining us to talk about some of the opportunities that are going to be out there for some of the local businesses. So thank you all once again for joining us this week, and we hope everybody stays safe. Thank you.
Thank you.